Today, I figured I'd touch on a more sensitive topic. Today, I want to talk about social anxiety. The reason I wanted to talk about social anxiety is for two reasons. First of all, I made a promise to a friend that I would, and second of all, social anxiety is something that I have personally been dealing with for a while, and I've never been sure how to open up about it entirely. You've probably seen me in the comments of my own videos talking to people who've commented, or even on Twitter where I'm very active and starting discussion after discussion. I want to make it clear that it's not me. Well, okay, it is me, but it's not how I act in real life. In real life, and this is going to get a little personal, but I'll try to keep it brief. In real life, I am quiet, I am shut in, I don't go outside all that often, social interactions terrify me, I feel horrified to even ask my parents or friends for support, and as a result, I tend to do stuff alone. This includes suffering my thoughts. And yet, as a result of this, I want to make videos, I interact with people online more, I watch a lot more stuff, I've played a lot, and some of the stuff that I've watched and played, I want to analyze parts of today. This video will be split into 3 sections. You can probably see it in the timestamps in the description. Section 1 and 2 will be focused on 2 shows I've watched in the past year, Bocchi The Rock and Komi Communicate. Both shows focus on social anxiety and its effects on the main characters, Satoru Goto or Bocchi, and Shoko Komi, respectively. Section 3 will be focused entirely on a game that doesn't really relate to social anxiety at all, but does have a major theming regarding time, which I really feel like ties heavily into social anxiety, and I'll explain why when we actually get to that section. For now, let's talk about Bocchi, specifically Bocchi's online persona, Guitar Hero. Bocchi The Rock is a comedy music manga series following Satoru Goto with a, at the time of this being written and probably releasing, 1 season 13 episode anime, which aired from October to December of 2022. It also recently had some recap movies released, but that's not important. I've already said this earlier, but to reiterate, Satoru Goto, who I will from this point forward be referring to just as Bocchi for simplicity's sake, suffers from social anxiety. That is her arc in the show, to get over her social anxiety so that she can make friends and become a popular musician. For the record, I will be exclusively discussing the anime adaptation, mainly because it's more well known than the manga, but also because I think the anime is the better way to experience Bocchi. It's also easier for me to edit than it would be with manga pages. However, I still recommend reading the manga. The first episode, like most first episodes, begins with an analysis on Bocchi as a character before the events of the show. She's a total introvert, she has no friends, she desires to be seen and heard. Even in elementary school, she's outcasted and afraid to join in out of a fear no one will want her. Funnily enough, this is also the very first scene of the show. Fast forward to her first year of middle school, Bocchi has still not improved, she is still shunned, she is still a total introvert, until eventually she sees an interview on TV with a popular boy band where one of the members says something that will forever change her life.
若者に絶大な人気を誇るバンドになってた。まあ、バンドは陰キャでも輝けるんで。そうなんですね。
So of course, this sets up Bocchi's goal for middle school, to start a band and play at the Culture Festival, of which fast forward 3 years, she's now in high school and she failed her goal completely, not even being able to make a single friend. And this is where we're quickly introduced to Bocchi's online persona, Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero is shown to be everything Bocchi isn't as Satoru Goto. She's got an insane amount of fans who all believe she's awesome at guitar, a complete narrative contrast to Bocchi where no one really knows who she is, and the friends she makes later on, Ryo and Najika, don't really have much confidence in her when it comes to her playing guitar. Guitar Hero is an escape. It's the person she wants to be, but struggles with making that a reality. This deeply connected with me on a level no other show had before this. I felt so recognized it almost felt like a personal attack. I'll say what I said at the start. Despite what I've shown you, despite what you may think of me, this is not at all what I'm like in real life. I'm scared to show my face even to people who know me online, just because I'm worried of what they'll think. I'm worried they'll think I'm bad looking, or I'm too different, and they'll abandon me just because of that. That's why I love doing YouTube. I don't need to show my face, I can say what I think and won't need to worry about how people see me in the real world. This is reflected in Bocchi The Rock too. There's a plot point introduced in this episode where Najika and Ryo don't know Guitar Hero is actually Bocchi because she hides her face and only points the camera at her guitar. Another thing I want to point out is the comments on one of Bocchi's videos. Bocchi sees a comment where someone talks about how at a school festival they played the same song she played in her video and it makes Bocchi feel upset and jealous. I won't lie, that's how I feel a lot of times. Seeing people do things that I wish I could build up the courage to do, and I don't mean like I wish I could climb a skyscraper or some stupid shit like that. I mean normal things, like I wish I had friends to go out with and enjoy myself, without feeling some internal pressure that I'm messing everything up and that I should keep my mouth shut, or I'll bring the moon down. Now, obviously, Bocchi takes this a little too far. She just straight up lies about her personal life, which I don't do. Or do I? You don't know, who knows? But no, seriously, I don't do that. However, I do think outside of it being for comedic effect, it's an interesting way to portray the fact that at the end of the day, Bocchi, like everyone suffering with social anxiety, just wants to fit in. Bocchi The Rock is a personal attack, a really strong, really mean personal attack, and that's a good thing, by the way. That's not an issue with the show at all. It being a personal attack is why I think everyone loves Bocchi so much. It makes people like me, who struggle hard with social interaction, feel seen and helps us to connect with Bocchi as a character more. But Bocchi is far from the only representation of social anxiety and its effects, which is where my second example comes in. Komi can't communicate.
When a person has extreme social anxiety, also known as social phobia, they struggle to communicate with others. Here's something to consider. They are only struggling. It doesn't mean that they don't want to form long-lasting connections or friendships.
This is a piece of dialogue heard from the narrator very regularly throughout Komi Can't Communicate, and I believe it's a perfect representation of what social anxiety actually is. It's the struggle, the want to communicate, to be loved, to be able to make friends, to be able to do regular, everyday things without being scared of the consequences. This is what social anxiety encapsulates, and despite the show's comedic nature, it lets you know right from the start that even though it will be used for a lot of comedic scenarios, like with everyone else's personalities, the series does understand social anxiety and what it entails. Komi as a character is portrayed as near perfect. Almost everything about her, whether it be regarding her education, her physical looks, etc., is portrayed as perfect. The people around her idolize her and praise everything she does, except that she's got one defining flaw. You really won't believe what it is. It's that she can't communicate. She struggles with talking to people. I know, surprise, right? Who could have seen that one coming? Komi's main goal is to make 100 friends before she graduates high school. That's it. That's the premise of the series right there. It's a pretty simple plot, but for someone struggling with social anxiety, this is a really big thing to do. And this obviously takes a while to complete. By the end of her first year, Komi only has 27 friends. At the time of this being written, the final arc is currently ongoing and is very close to the end of her third year, and she's still missing 2 people. Could this have gone faster if she had gone outside of her class and all around school and asked for people to be her friends? Yes, of course, it's the most fucking obvious thing, but it's not how social anxiety works. Actually, that's the exact opposite. I also think that missed the point of the goal. Komi doesn't just want friends for the sake of having friends. She wants to be able to form real connections, be able to talk with people about the day or what their interests are. This ties into another point that I really love about Komi and Bocchi. Their journeys don't just start because one day they decided, oh, I'm going to talk to people now. They start because people reached out. For Bocchi, it was Najika, although granted it was for her own selfish gain, but just ignore that, and for Komi, it was Tadano. And through these characters performing acts just as simple as talking, they're able to forever change the main characters' lives. And that's genuinely as simple as it is. It sounds really cliche, but sometimes all it takes is just for someone to reach out. I also want to take a look at Komi's personal mannerisms. Within the first 4 episodes, she shows a lot of very relatable mannerisms and goes through a lot of common situations as a result when it comes to social anxiety, such as overthinking things that have already happened / are going to happen, or things she wants to do being completely misinterpreted due to her inability to speak up. With that second one, a lot of those moments are usually heavily played off for jokes, as this show is very reliant on using exaggeration for its comedy. After all, that is kind of the premise of the show. Everyone in the school, with the exception of Tadano, has one personality trait that's massively exaggerated to be their entire thing. For Najimi, it's being the extrovert comedy relief. For Komi, it's obviously her social anxiety. For this fucking little shithead motherfucker, it's being a freak, and so on. However, I do think those moments, while yes, some may be unrealistic, are very good at portraying an actual issue that comes with social anxiety. I've had plenty of moments where I was easily misinterpreted just because I was unable to speak up based on the fear of being attacked or shamed. There's a specific moment in episode 3 where Komi is trying to get people's phone numbers to add to her phone, but she struggles with it because of her social anxiety. A good example is with Najimi. Komi has to rely on using the environment to get her point across. A similar thing happens with Himiko, where Komi is unable to get her point across and actually straight up gives up. However, that part was just due to Himiko being, unfortunately, another total fucking weirdo. But I do actually still want to talk about Himiko more, because episode 3 starts with another case of Komi's actions being misinterpreted. Episode 3 opens with a character introduction to Himiko, and also the reveal that Komi is trying her best to become friends with her, but due to her social anxiety, she can't do it no matter how hard she tries. So what results is her just following Himiko around, which obviously anyone is going to misinterpret. Now, obviously I'm not saying people following you around means they probably want to be friends with you, because chances are they don't and you are likely in danger. But I do think this scene does a good job at showcasing the extent of Komi's social anxiety. She wants to be friends with people, but can never work up the courage to actually do it, so she rushes into things and doesn't realize how it might come off. But regardless, she wants to try and make the change to get over her anxiety. Episode 4, although I don't like the episode very much because it's an episode focused on that character for most of its runtime, has a really well executed moment towards the end where Komi attempts to push Tadano away. She overthinks what happens and jumps to the what ifs and instantly assumes that because of her being the reason he was put in danger, he wouldn't want to be friends with her anymore. In general, my favourite moments in the show are these little moments between Tadano and Komi. Shipping aside, it's moments like these where Tadano genuinely wants to understand Komi that puts into perspective how simple it can be for someone with social anxiety to be put on a path of being able to open up again. Tadano is never doing much in these scenes. All he's doing is making an effort to talk to her. But things like these, they take time. Season 1 and 2 of Komi Can't Communicate covers her entire first year of high school, and while, as of writing this, there is no confirmed Season 3, I want to remind you that this is an adaptation of a pre-existing manga that is still ongoing and currently in its final arc, of which is at the end of her third and final year of high school. Komi has still not entirely lost her social anxiety, but she talks more, she's far more able to get her point across now. There have been plenty of examples where Komi doesn't need to rely on Tadano or Najimi, or just having to get lucky in order for people to understand her point, because she can pretty much do it herself now. She's still very quiet, but she's doing far better than she was before. Once again, these things take time in order to prosper. If you're struggling with social anxiety, you're most definitely not going to be able to get past it quickly, but it's worth taking that step in order to attempt to be able to open up again. Time is my final point here. That is the final section I want to discuss here. That is my last surprise. Persona is a video game franchise created by Sega Atlas as a spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei in 1996. Or, if you ignore anything before Persona 3 exists, it was created in 2006. Now, I'm a relatively new fan, only really getting into it this year with Persona 3 Reload, and although I own Persona 4 Golden and have played a bit of Persona 5 Royal, and have also been completely spoiled on both games' stories, I haven't played them, which arguably makes me the biggest fan of those games, but that's not what we're here to discuss. Point is, I will be mainly discussing Persona 3, as that's what I'm personally familiar with. Persona is a franchise that I've wanted to talk about since I beat Reload in March, and although I did mention it a bit in my Smash Bros. Roster Reshaped video, it was obviously only a small amount. Originally, I was going to do Xenoblade 3 instead, because that also has a strong theme surrounding time and the effect it can take on you, but I felt like I've spoken about Xenoblade enough this year, and I think Persona works better here for what I'm going to say. Speaking of which, let's get into my main point of this section. Persona 3, like most Atlas games, are heavily reliant on the calendar system. You were given a little under a year to explore Tatsumi Port Island, make connections, go through life, study, fight little demon monster things called shadows who want to kill everyone pretty much. You know, the usual student life, as you can see. Now, Persona 3 doesn't really have anything to do with social anxiety. There are little traces of it with different characters, namely Fuka, but I wouldn't say even she has social anxiety. But more so, she's just shy. So why the fuck am I talking about Persona 3? Well, my point with this section is not entirely social anxiety, but the fact that time is ever moving. A major theme of Persona 3 is death, and I guess now's a good time to say, hey, spoilers ahead if you weren't aware, but as a result, certain characters like Shinjiro find their lives cut short, but also thanks to them, many other characters like Ken, Akihiko, etc. are able to keep moving forward with their lives instead and make actual differences in the world. This is most prevalent with the protagonist, who gives up his life in order to make sure everyone else can keep living. Now, the protag is a man who goes by many names, and genders if you play Portable, but for the sake of making this easier on me, I'll be specifically referring to the protag as Makoto Yuki. As Makoto, you go from April 2009 through March 2010, living your life day by day, making connections with not just your team, but people at school and all around Tatsumi. Persona 3, or honestly I guess you can make this case for Persona 4 and 5 as well, but especially for Persona 3 considering Makoto's fate, is all about working with the time you've got to do what you can for yourself and others. Makoto, in the end, genuinely finds his answer to life. He was able to live his final days happily clinging to life, knowing that his friends and the world would make it without him, even if no one outside of Seas would ever know his sacrifice. In the end, he lived his life to the fullest, making friends, inspiring others, and changing the world around him. It's because of him that the world and everyone in Seas can continue to keep living and working to make the world a better place with the extra time they've been given. And I think that's why I want to connect social anxiety with time so much. Social anxiety makes you lose a lot of time. It makes you scared to do things that anyone else would have no issue with. It makes you afraid to take steps that seem so easy to take, and it takes time to remove that feeling of social anxiety. As seen with Komi's goal to make 100 friends, or Bocchi's goal to become a popular musician along with Kasaku Band. As much as I've gone on about how simply reaching out can do a lot, which it definitely can, you need to put some effort in yourself too. It'll all be for nothing. We're all given a limited amount of time in this world, time that is honestly somewhat short in the grand scheme of things. The time we spend on this planet with our friends, family, really anyone at all, honestly, is so little. But what matters is you spend that time living your life to the fullest, just like Makoto did. Now, obviously, I don't think anyone watching this is ever going to have to give up their soul to seal away the incarnation of death, but that's not my point. Like I said, social anxiety takes away and makes you lose so much time. I know, because despite everything I'm saying here, I still struggle with it. But that's why I'm begging that this video gives any of you the push you need to finally start moving forward. Again, time in this world is stupidly limited. It sucks, but that's just how it is. Social anxiety prevents a lot of people from taking the steps they need to take because being in new environments with people you may have never met before is stupidly terrifying. But yet, it's worth trying to take those steps because you may find experiences that you would never receive anywhere else. And if it means that when your time in this world comes to a close, you can say that you left your mark and lived your life to the best of your abilities, I think that's why you should try to take the risk of moving forward with as little regrets as you can. This video has been very different in many ways. I don't think I've ever really done a video this personal before. I've also pretty much never covered anime before. I would really like to cover a whole variety of things on this channel, but I want to see how this video and my next video does first. Social anxiety, like I keep saying repeatedly, is something I struggle with, and it's something I don't really like talking about. But in the end, I'm glad I made this video, and I hope you're glad you watched this video, whether you heavily suffer from it, or whether you're the biggest extrovert known to man. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next time.